Hey, this is Bryce Johnson from Expedition Bigfoot. You're listening to the Paranomaly Zone.
Look, I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen.
A ghostly apparition in the dark of night.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
You know, I usually start the episodes with that, the semi-scripted intro.
Oh, it doesn't sound scripted at all.
Oh, you don't think so? Even though I repeat myself,
I'm kidding.
Letter for letter, word for word every time. So, hey, we're going off the hook for this one, Mike. We're already off the rails. That's a great sign, right? So
The whole episode is going to be off the hook, off the rails.
I agree. It's going to be pretty darn good. But
Some good topic, some good subject matter.
Oh my gosh, that's some awesome subject matter, some creepy good subject matter that we're looking forward to diving into. That is for certain. But hey, let's get the formalities all the way. My name is Patrick Koffenberg. I am the host, and you know where you are. This is the Paranomaly Zone. I am joined, as always, by my co-host with the ghosts, the host himself, I should say. He's truly the host himself, the paranormal poster boy, the soon-to-be member of the Nerve Ablation Society, Mr. Michael Carbno. How you doing, buddy? It's good to see you. Thanks for joining me again. It's going to be a good night.
Absolutely. Oh, it'll be good. We'll be positive.
Oh, it'll be good.
As best we can.
You sounded a wee bit Irish right there. It's like,
it's because we got a wee bit of an Irish topic for this evening.
I think, yeah, there's no doubt about that. There's no way around it. It's
a lot of Celtic and wondrous things.
Yes, absolutely. It'll be good.
And it shan't be the leprechaun. It shan't be anything little like that. The little people.
The little leprechauns. No, we're not going to be talking about little leprechauns.
Just a wee little leprechaun.
No, we're talking about something far creepier than that. We're talking about the Irish legend of the Banshee, Mike, and
the she-hag herself, the Banshee.
Gosh. You know, if there's anything, I mean, I find myself saying this quite often during every episode, it seems, but this topic truly does kind of creep me out. If there's legitimacy behind this, which, you know, longtime listeners know, we are open-minded to all of this as being very real, very legit.
Man, I grew up hearing the story of the Banshee.
That's right. We're going to dive into that in a couple minutes. I can't wait to hear that. You mentioned that before we started recording, but yeah, when you think about the idea of what the Banshee is, the notion of what lies, what it means to encounter a Banshee, it's not fun, really. So, I don't hesitate in saying that I get a wee bit of chills going up and down me spine when I think about the Banshee. So we brought this up originally earlier in this week because, believe it or not, I had found a story about an alleged Banshee that haunts the Badlands of South Dakota.
Right.
And that was creepy. I had never heard of that, Mike. I have no problems in confessing my ignorance to that one. I had never heard of it. Had you?
No, even with me being a Nodak and not a Sodak, but I am a Nodak, and I'm familiar with the Badlands, but I never heard that story.
Now, briefly, before we dive into the meat of the episode here and do a deep dive into all things Banshee, simply speaking, it's a paranormal entity that is essentially a harbinger of doom. It's in the form of a female, and
it goes beyond doom.
Oh my gosh,
it's death.
Right, it's death. it's death. And quite frankly, If you've ever heard of the phrase "scream like a banshee," well, there's reasons behind that.
There's, yes, great reasons.
The horrifying wail, the terrifying scream, the terrifying shriek of a banshee is enough to give you nightmares in itself. But we're going to dive into all of that. But Mike, I want to hear your story because you kind of took me off guard there right before we started recording. You said, "Wait a minute, I have a family story about a banshee encounter."
Yeah, and it's very, to me, it's a banshee. I mean, this is a story that I grew up with from when I was very little. I mean, like people know that I've been in the paranormal situation and business for many decades,
your whole life, basically,
and many generations. Yeah.
Well, there's a reason. I don't call you the paranormal poster boy for nothing, Mike.
That's right.
So,
I'm still going to make a poster about that.
I know.
It was right by my
you are the
podcast.
You are the co-host with the ghosts, so it's there's meaning behind that, Mike. Now, there is. It's interesting. It's interesting that you say that. I think it's a banshee. So when you say that, my initial reaction is, oh, so it's a story that, like, when you first heard upon it, and maybe even a few times after you heard it, you never really put the two together.
I didn't, and my great grandmother, who was very English Irish, my grandfather's mother on my dad's side, she just didn't use the word banshee, but I will tell the story and you can kind of decipher from there and
okay, sure.
Put out your own opinion.
Well, so I'm not going to, so you're saying I have to try and decipher what you are saying, like I won't be able to understand you, or you mean interpret it? That's kind of, okay. Gotcha.
And Steve, my brother, when you are listening to this, if I have any of this wrong, let me know. But I think this is how I heard the story. You may remember it more than I do but let me know. Anyway, so my grandmother and my grandfather, my father's parents, when they first got married, they were going to have not when they first got married, but when they're going to have their first child, which they did. They lived in a cabin, and this was in Canada, and their child, just a young baby, and my great grandmother, my grandfather's mother, she would, visit a lot, and she would be with them. And one time, the baby, young child, not old enough to sit up yet.
Now, how would this young child relate to you? Can you?
Well, it would be
that one out.
It would have been my aunt, I guess.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because I think it was a little girl, but anyway, there was. I can't remember who it was. I think it was my grandmother. I'm trying to remember the story from way back. Okay, so
right,
she had seen an old woman sitting on the banister of the stairs, going up the stairs. It's like a railing or whatever.
Yeah,
and laughing, like just this maniacal laughing. This old haggy lady.
Oh God!
And it was up there where the baby was. And when my grandmother had told my great grandmother what had happened, my great grandmother said that baby is not going to live for very long.
Are you kidding me?
I am not kidding. And the baby did die.
Wait a minute. Holy okay. Holy shit.
So to me, I think the banshee,
holy cow,
was a harbinger of the death of my aunt.
And no one else saw this entity or what you
not that I know of.
Want to
not that I know of.
Describe it. That gave me chills, Mike. I've never heard that before. You've never told me that before.
Okay, I thought I may have. Why wouldn't I have? I mean, that's an awesome story. I mean, not from my family or my aunt, but
maybe maybe you did, but maybe I've forgotten. But
yeah,
man, that was,
I don't know.
That
but,
seemed new to me.
But with the heritage of my family and of my great grandmother, I'm sure she would have thought right away that it was a banshee. Sure. I would imagine, and my great grandmother said that, or I guess from what she took from that is that it was a banshee that was the harbinger of the death of my aunt
That's terrifying.
as a young child.
Do you? I'm kind of putting you on the spot. I know. Do you remember any physical descriptions that were passed on down?
I think it was. She just said it was an old woman, haggy woman. Just and laughing like not a nice laugh. It was like
Maniacal.
just a crazy maniacal, witch laughter type thing.
And it was sitting on the railing.
Yeah.
Good.
That's the way
God.
I remember the story growing up.
It'd be interesting to know like how large this thing was, or because that's something that is interesting about these encounters is that there's a variety, a range of sizes that some people who claim to encounter these banshees. Some of them say they're as small as 3 feet. Some of them say they're as large as nearly 10 feet tall.
Really?
So that's interesting and terrifying.
Well, this must have been a wee banshee that was small enough to fit on the railing.
On the banister
stairs.
railings, yes.
Yes.
Good God. Okay, that's nightmare material, Mike.
Wrapped her legs around the newel post.
No, and that if even if this didn't happen, it's still a tragedy that poor baby passed away. Obviously.
Oh yeah, well yeah, and and my grandmother that told that story that I that it was just it's coming from a first person that actually had witnessed this happen.
Yeah.
My grandmother would not have carried this with her and told the story like decades, many decades after her child passed away.
Yeah.
But
Man.
yeah.
Especially if there I don't know, maybe I'm sure there are several, wicked grandparents out there and great
Oh, you wicked thing.
you wicked man, you or woman, whatever, who their sheer enjoyment out of life is like terrifying their grandchildren.
Actually, before they go to a house and have to start wailing, they punch a time card like everybody, and they're just carrying their little lunchbox, and they got their little list of houses they got to go to. It's a job for them. They don't.
Okay.
It's not like it's
9 to 5
enjoying it.
Okay, yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow,
They would rather be have their own television series called Bewitched or something.
Oh, okay.
Or be a banshee.
The Golden Girls. Yeah. Or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh man. Well, thank you very much for sharing that, Mike. That was something. And if you had actually shared that with me before, I apologize for forgetting. Are you okay?
I must not have, because I feel a sneeze coming on. I'm just trying to time it between a sniffle, muting my mic, and actually sneezing.
It looked like you're holding your breath and you're in pain, and I was like,
my eyes started watering and everything, and
and
felt a trickle of snot coming out of my nose.
As our Patreon listeners already know from our last episode on Wednesday, Mike's eye is I'm sorry.
Blew out some blood vessels somehow.
Oh my gosh, Mike, I that I'm not laughing at you. I'm not laughing at your
okay.
expense.
You can laugh. I laugh at you all the time.
I know you do. And if my eye looked like yours looks right now, you'd be laughing your balls off at me right now too. It's I have to describe it to our listeners. It's okay, when I first saw Mike on Wednesday, when we were recording the Patreon episode, our commentary and breakdown episode number 3, the exclusive series for Patreon, by the way, I thought that Mike was cross-eyed. I thought he was making himself go cross-eyed, and I didn't know if he was trying to make me laugh. I didn't want to say anything. He had his scully kind of pulled down a little bit over his eye.
Yeah, I was trying to disguise myself a little bit.
But something happened. The inner, I suppose that's your left eye. The inner corner of your eye is literally as red can be. And
it's a beautiful maroon crimson.
So it looks like you have the largest, pupils in the planet.
Yeah, from the iris of my eye,
yeah,
all the way to the corner is like
it's
just blood.
Yep.
And this has only happened I think this is the 4th time in my entire life this has happened.
Man.
And It's nothing serious. It doesn't hurt. There's no pain.
No, not at all.
Like I said on the Patreon, I was thinking, like before when it happened, I was thinking my blood pressure
Right.
being so high that I battled that for a long time. But my blood pressure is perfect right now and has been,
and that's awesome,
since my last med change.
That's awesome.
So it's not that. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's age. You're getting close to 60. We're going to start blowing your vessels out of your eyeballs.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I won't take a screenshot of Mike and share it to the world right now. It's
yesterday.
It's enjoyable though. For me.
Yesterday we went to Fargo to get Mary's check and everything, and then we went out for lunch.
Say get married, and I was like, "Whoa, you got married!"
And I took a close-up picture of my eye, and she was sitting across the table from me. We were waiting for her food, and I said, "Mary, look at this!" And on my camera, on my phone, it was just all you could see on the screen is my bloody eyeball. She didn't like that.
I'm sure. Yeah. Especially right before dinner time or wherever the hell.
Yeah, it's all fun.
Of course it is. Of course.
I didn't ruin her BLT for her.
Man alive. Well, Mike, I have to get the necessary evils out of the way here. Speaking of Patreon, though, man alive, that our Patreon page is just growing and growing. Damn near 200 exclusive posts up on there right now.
Yeah, now we just need people to watch the stuff and listen to it.
Exactly, man. And you know what? It's without patting ourselves on the back too much, it is really high quality content on there. There's
a lot of fun stuff on there.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
A lot of great conversation, a lot of great topics, some deep diving into some stuff and fun. I mean, it's well worth it.
And, it's exclusive content that we don't release anywhere else. If you enjoy the podcast, try out our Patreon page for as little as $1 a month, and you'll have full access to the entire Alternate Route podcast archives. I'm slowly but surely putting all those episodes up there because they have been removed from all other listening, streaming devices, services, what have you, and they are available only on our Patreon page. And we, as I mentioned earlier, we do have exclusive series that we record solely for Patreon. Like I mentioned earlier, our commentary and breakdown episodes of paranormal programming. Last Wednesday, we did Ghost Hunters Season 2, Episode 19, the St. Augustine.
One of the best episodes.
Oh, one of the best ones, the St. Augustine Lighthouse. That was an awesome episode. We had a great time talking about that one as well. We have plans to record future episodes exclusively for Patreon of our Sick and Twisted episodes, as well as the horror series. That's horror series, series that seemed to have been pretty damn popular when they were available on the Alternate Route podcast.
Yeah, we got to catch up on some of the things that we used to do that people really enjoyed.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And we have video exclusive episodes. If you want to see our lovely faces, you can do that. All of our celebrity interviews are available exclusively on the Patreon page, including video episodes of our chats, our interviews. The latest one with Bryce Johnson and Ronnie LeBlanc from Expedition Bigfoot. We've got a couple of awesome interviews lined up for the next month and a half. This month is yeah. Absolutely.
Got the one and only the stormy.
Don't say anything because
stormy weather.
Yes, stormy. No, only our Patreons know who
the stormy weather that comes with
Would
this.
You stop, Mike? Just stop. Don't even give out hints.
Topic that we're going to be covering. No, that wasn't even a hint.
Okay, it wasn't a hint. Okay, it wasn't a hint at all. Anyways,
I was putting out some kind of an adjective.
Okay, sure. Gotcha. See,
Good Lord, Patrick, chill.
No, I'm not going to chill.
I'm going to hear about this for the next week.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
I could probably edit that all out, but I won't.
You could.
It's fun for our listeners to listen to you and me banter back and forth, like yell at each other. I lost my train of thought, though. Man, but we got so much stuff available. Oh, there we go. Our exclusive, our own personal ghost hunting videos, our ghost hunting escapades, our personally captured EVPs, our audio anomalies, which, by the way, we are recording right after tonight's episode, another Patreon exclusive episode where I threw together, I had to earlier today, Mike, bunched together several of our, well, dare I say, paranormal proof
That's
audio
right.
clips of our own that we're going to be sharing and talking about and breaking down on the Patreon exclusive episode immediately following this one. But anyways, I'm going on way too far. Try it out for as little as $1 a month. No obligations. No obligations. Again, if you enjoy the Paranormally Zone, I'm pretty damn sure you're going to love the Patreon page as well. So we'd love to see you there. Thanks. Oh, man. That's a necessary evil, Mike. It is. I hate doing it, but it's a necessary evil.
That was so much I don't even know where we're going after that.
Yeah. The Banshee. The Banshee. Oh. That's right. Woofda. I know. I feel like I have to take a breather here. God damn. All right. 1, 2, 3. Deep breath. You okay, Mike? You all right over there? You ready to go?
I am.
Okay.
I'm perusing my area.
Oh, well, I hope that sounded kind of private. Well, can't you wait till the episode's over with? Holy cow. All right. Anyways, let's go on the Banshee. The Banshee, modern Irish. The modern Irish meaning of a Banshee, Mike, is that of a fairy woman, a woman of the fairy mound, female spirit, essentially, in Irish folklore. And as we mentioned earlier, this spirit heralds the death of a family member. And how does that line up with your story? Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
God. Again, usually by wailing, shrieking, or keening. Now, I don't think that your story involved shrieking or screaming, but just that cackling laugh.
Just
right?
that really nasty laughing. Yeah.
And before I forget, keening, Keening, is a traditional form of vocal lament for the dead in Gaelic Celtic tradition. So you can just imagine that melancholy.
Yeah, very mournful
singing.
Wailing.
The name is connected to the mythologically important tumuli, or quote-unquote mounds, that dot the Irish countryside. Now, descriptions, as I mentioned earlier today, they vary greatly, and it's interesting that they differ between regions. Regional accounts of a Banshee, the physical descriptions vary from region to region, apparently, so that's interesting. Some accounts of her standing unnaturally tall, but the majority of tales describe her height and her status as that of short, anywhere between 1 foot tall to 4 feet tall.
Wow, I've never heard that before about that shortness. So it is about the little people.
So that that lines up with the with the fairy woman description.
Right. Yeah.
That's really interesting. That adds to the creepiness too. I don't know why this, the idea of encountering just this little 1 to 2 to 3 foot tall being.
So are you saying little people aren't human and they're scary?
Well, look at me. I mean, I'm terrifying. I'm short enough as it is, right? The exceptional shortness of a Banshee often goes alongside the description of her as being an old woman. Now, that's again adding to the creepiness. Can you imagine being out in the woods by yourself, Mike, and you hear this melancholy lament sound, this lamenting wail, and the closer and closer this wailing gets to you, all of a sudden appearing out of the darkness is this 3 foot tall old woman, just wailing and shrieking. I don't like it. Well,
it makes me again think of my grandmother witnessing this old hag sitting on the banister of the, and anyway.
No, I don't. That's to me, that's absolutely terrifying. Now, in O'Brien's Irish English Dictionary, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sound like that.
O'Brien's
Irish English Dictionary. Now, the entry for a Banshee goes as such. I'm going to skip a couple of things here because, frankly, I can't pronounce them. The she fairies or woman fairies, credulously supposed by the common people to be so affected to certain families that they are hears to sing mournful lamentations about their houses by night, so around their houses at night, whenever any of the family labors under a sickness, which is to end by death. But no families which are not of an ancient and noble stock are believed to be honored with this fairy privilege. That's interesting. So families not thought to be of ancient or of noble stock are believed to be honored with this fairy tradition. No families, I should say. So they have to be kind of coming from the the noble line, the noble ancestry, then they are to be, they're the ones who are, it almost makes it sound like they're blessed to be, experiencing these lamentations of the Banshee. That's really, really interesting. You'd think it'd be the other way around, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And I did read in that one spot where it said, if there is somebody that is of great nobility or greatness or a holy person, then they can actually be visited by a group of banshees.
That's right. I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
but I guess if you're mediocre nobility or a holy person with a bad streak, you can get one.
Very, very interesting.
You never know.
Sometimes the Banshee assumes the form of a sweet singing virgin of the family who died young and has been given the mission by the invisible powers to become the harbinger of coming doom to her mortal kindred. Or she may be seen at night as a shrouded woman crouched beneath the trees, lamenting with veiled face, or flying past in the moonlight, crying bitterly. Ooh, flying. So they have been known to have been they have been like eyewitnesses have reported them to be taking flight.
Moving at extreme speeds.
The cry of this, the bitter cry of this spirit is mournful beyond all other sounds on earth, and betokens certain death to some member of the family. Again, we've mentioned that already, but to me that's just pure terrifying, Mike. I don't know how I would react.
It's extremely terrifying.
I it's hard to wrap your head around that idea. The idea of a harbinger of death in the first place is something that is... What would be the reason behind that? I mean, think about that for a second. Is that in any way a good thing? A harbinger of death, Mike? I think, Mike, are you being attacked by your dog or something? What the hell is happening right now?
Well, yeah, I had some... Oh, dang it, dog. Leave that alone. Okay, I'm good.
All right.
Well, it can kind of give you a heads up on funeral plans.
That's true. That's true. Making sure that you have the finances, the proper finances to move forth with such things.
Well, and then I don't know, but do any of us want to know when we're going to die, even if it's just like a short time, or if it's like in the next few days,
or if you know of a family member who's going to be taken,
right?
That's the thing. I don't know. I'm trying to look at it in any sort of positive manner. I don't know if I can.
Yeah, I don't see. Well, especially just the fear of it. I mean, the fright. If you're sitting in your house next to a warm fireplace and just relaxing, and all of a sudden you hear this wailing out in your front yard.
Oh God.
And, and if you've been raised in this culture where you hear that, you automatically think, oh my God, somebody's going to die. Is it going to be me?
Sure.
It's just, there's just too many negatives and fear that goes along with it. I just can't imagine being anything positive.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah. And that just the notion itself of being aware of your own, I mean, we're all aware of our own mortality, but having a time frame on our own mortality, like, okay, you have such and such, you've encountered the Banshee, and so within 2 weeks you're going to be dead. That affects every thought that goes through your mind, let alone every decision you make and every action you take. That absolutely affects the most seemingly minute, meaningless thoughts that go through your brain. So in some ways, that could maybe lead to causing your own death because of every decision you are making. You're making a decision to avoid death, but in some roundabout way, you're actually hastening the ultimate outcome.
It can't help.
That is another I guess, not description, but interpretation of of the appearance of a banshee is not necessarily as a harbinger of death, but the cause of death itself. I read about one encounter earlier today of a man who claimed who have encountered a banshee, and 2 weeks later he had passed away. And so the debate raged between family members, people who believed in this concept. Well, was this a harbinger? Was this a predictor of the future? Or did it somehow cause this man's death? Did the man live in such utter fear for the next 2 weeks that he had a heart attack?
Well, I'm sure that's probably happened.
Sure. I mean, why not? I mean, I don't know, Mike. Now there is an interesting article here that I found from mysteriousuniverse.org. It's a cool website, by the way, if you're not familiar with it. And this article, it's quite long, so I won't bore everybody to death by reading all of it, but it does have some descriptions of alleged encounters with banshees. So I thought we'd dive into a couple of these. This one, it's funny, the first one I read right here, described as a filthy old hag. Yeah. The word banshee comes from the Old Irish baint side, meaning roughly fairy woman of the fairy mound, which you said earlier today. So, you ready to hear some of these kind of ghostly tales of encounters with banshees, Mike?
Yes, I am. I'm intrigued.
Are you intrigued? You're not falling asleep yet, like every listener out
absolutely there? Absolutely not.
Okay. Oh yeah, that reminds me. I do have some alleged audio of encounters with a banshee. Particularly, it's funny that you said that the one that the tragic story basically that you shared about your family, the one was laughing maniacally. Did it sound anything like?
Yeah.
Or did it sound?
It could possibly have been.
Or was it more like? Is that something?
Yeah, more like that.
Something like that. Okay, all right. That's eerie. That's eerie. As long, but the thing is though, I thought your story was for certain going to include the terrifying shriek, or the terrifying.
Let's hear it.
Well, I have a couple of them. Okay, the first one is just terrifying, but this one again, it sounds fairly similar. Ow! Was that something like what they heard?
You're getting there.
I'm getting there. Okay, all right. I'm just making sure. But man, let's just get to this is laid out there, Mike. This. According to what you told me before we started recording, this is actual audio of that flippin' banshee straddling the railings. I don't know if it was the straddling that caused this, but it was pretty unbelievable.
Melted the varnish right off that banister.
Well, I guess I might as well do it. So I have to play it a couple more times, just so people make sure they can get a good listen of this and see if they can kind of compare it to any other noises the body may make at one time or another. But
if you're a banshee,
and you peek around the corner and you see this little witchy old hag squatting and looking at you, and my God, all you hear is it. Run for your lives. That's all I can say is run.
Absolutely.
For your lives. Oh, hush. Yeah. Anyways. Along we shall go. Okay.
Yes.
Or I don't know why I'm looking at my phone right now, because that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the Mysterious Universe article right there on my big old laptop screen. All right, let's get to some of these encounters.
Yeah, I am ready.
I'm trying to find the description, the particulars here. As it says here, some tales depicted, as I mentioned earlier, a filthy old hag. Others claim to have encountered a banshee that's taken the form of a young maiden of exceptional beauty. That's interesting, very interesting itself. That's kind of that's almost like it's trying to fool you almost.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It could very well be.
Because I'm not getting a good vibe from the banshee, Mike. I mean, if our listeners are so smart. If we're totally going down the wrong path, let us know. Maybe they are more well known to be, to take form of exceptional beauty, and something that's more pleasing to the eye, more seductive, so to speak. Yeah, let us know. Others have claimed that it takes on a more animalistic or even monstrous form with the head of a bird or a hare. This is
it's strange that there's so many varieties of from one extreme to the other.
Well, like I said, because all the physical descriptions they vary from region to region,
right?
Area to area, country to country. It's it's like their own takes on them almost, which is, take that as you will. Every country has its own history, has its own mythology, has its own tall tale, so to speak. I'm not saying this is a tall tale, but well, here we go. This first description, it was written down simply as this. An eyewitness described it as a woman of no earthly type with a queer-shaped, gleaming face. You can tell how old that is because that word is not acceptable.
What word isn't acceptable?
The Q. The Q word.
Q.
No, that started with the Q. I must have broke up.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah. Gleaming face, a mass of red hair, and eyes that would have been beautiful but for their expression, which was hellish. She had on a green hood after the fashion of an Irish peasant. That's kind of interesting. Again, clothing, eye color, and hair differ on basically what region these accounts take place, as does the size. As I mentioned earlier, it can range from 1 to 8 feet tall, if not taller. And again, when it's 1 foot tall, that I think of fairies, Mike. That's, so there's the connection right there. Excuse me. Are you okay, Mike?
Yeah, I just muted my mic because a train was going by. I'm sure that was.
I didn't hear it at all, actually.
Okay, it was getting louder.
Good job. I didn't hear it at all.
Yeah.
Now, a popular account was mentioned in a book called The True Irish Ghost Stories. And this supposedly occurred back in early 1900s when a member of a family in Cork told of how her esteemed family had been plagued by a banshee. And she wrote down as such: "My mother, when a young girl, was standing looking out of the window in their house at Blackrock near Cork. She suddenly saw a white figure standing on a bridge, which was easily visible from their house. The figure waved her arms towards the house, and my mother heard the bitter wailing of the banshee. It lasted some seconds, and then the figure disappeared." Interesting. "Next morning, my grandfather was walking as usual into the city of Cork, where he accidentally fell, hit his head against the curbstone, and never recovered consciousness." I don't like that. Again, pure harbinger right there. My God.
Yeah.
Now, what would it be?
And could also be coincidental. But
it could very well be coincidental. But when it disappears, something comes out of nowhere on the, materializes out of nowhere on a bridge. What is it about, waving arms towards the house? Is that simply to get the attention of said person? I mean, what?
Well,
what are your thoughts on that? Of the waving the arms?
Yeah, it could be an attention getter, it could be an exclamation mark to the wailing. It's like, kind of making it more intense.
Sure.
Because if somebody peeks out the window, it'd be one thing to hear the wailing, which would be bad enough. But if you see some freaky looking thing waving their arms and wailing,
right.
Yeah, that'd be a little bit more weird and creepy.
Yeah.
Maybe it's trying to beckon them out of the house to come out.
Maybe does that somehow conjure up more energy doing such a such a thing. Like
Yeah.
you said, maybe it makes it easier for them to break the veil through
Yes.
us. So us.
Or it could be directing a plane that's landing.
It could be. Yeah, right.
You never know.
Even though this was the early 1900s, it could have been. You never know. You never
Yeah.
know. Not sure if where Orville and Wilbur Wright were at this time. Maybe they're the reasons behind all these Banshee stories. That's in March 1900. This is another story here. So 122 years ago, if my math serves me correctly. My mother was very ill, and one evening the nurse and I were with her arranging her bed. We suddenly heard the most extraordinary wailing, which seemed to come in waves round and under her bed. Oh my God, terrifying. Naturally, we looked everywhere to try and find the cause, but in vain. The nurse and I looked at one another, but made no remark, as my mother did not seem to hear it. My sister was downstairs sitting with my father. She had heard it and thought something terrible had happened to her little boy, who was in the bed upstairs. She rushed up and found him sleeping quietly. My father did not hear it. In the house next door, they heard it and ran downstairs thinking something had happened to the servant. But the latter at once said to them, "Did you hear the Banshee? Mrs. P must be dying." Very interesting.
So they heard that from inside the house.
Inside the house, under and around the bed.
Yeah. Okay. So that's one thing that I was wondering about my family story.
But not everyone, I'm sorry for interrupting, Mike, but not everyone in the house heard it.
Right. Okay.
That's interesting. I mean, the ones around the bed, obviously the mother and the nurse heard it.
I was always under the
downstairs
impression that the Banshee is outside the house and wailing outside.
Yeah.
But like, if my family story is a Banshee being in the room there, on the banister, and now this, is another story where something was heard under the bed or around the bed of this person. I mean, so yeah, that's interesting. It doesn't have to be outside, like I was wondering. I thought that before.
That's interesting, though. The neighbors heard it, but again, who's to say that the sound wasn't somehow coming from outside, but just how they were interpreting it? It seemed like it was coming from in the house.
It could be.
No one is to say.
But they heard it and they didn't see anything.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, another account comes from 1894, and it concerns an odd experience of a boy at a boarding school. It goes as such. A few years ago, a curious incident occurred in a public school in connection with the belief in the Banshee. One of the boys, happening to become ill, was at once placed in a room by himself where he used to sit all day. On one occasion, as he was being visited by the doctor, he suddenly started up from his seat and affirmed that he had heard somebody crying. The doctor, of course, who could hear or see nothing, came to the conclusion that the illness had slightly affected the boy's brain. However, the boy, who appeared quite sensible, still persisted that he heard someone crying, and furthermore said, "It is the Banshee, as I have heard it before." The following morning, the headmaster received a telegram saying that the boy's brother had been accidentally shot dead. Wow. That's spooky. And how many times does stuff like this happen, Mike, that and through no fault of theirs, through no fault of any sensibly thinking doctor, that is merely pushed aside as you're imagining things, or you're sick, and your mind is playing tricks on you. Your lack of oxygen to the brain right now, boy. It's affecting your thoughts, your ability to hear and speak, and any number of things. How many times has that happened through the course of history?
It's got to be, more often than what you could imagine.
Countless. Countless times. Well, I could read a couple more, I suppose, unless you're bored to death already. Mike, are you bored to death?
No, I'm not. Oh. I am not easily bored.
Oh, okay. That gives me confidence then. Thank you very much.
I thought it would.
Well, I'm trying then. I'm trying my damn best here, okay? All right, here's another alleged account. This is actually one that was posted on Reddit. And it was posted by the child relating a story that their mother had experienced. a terrifying experience to her. And here it goes. Some people believe in banshees, and only some families get them. I live in Ireland. My mother comes from a very old Irish family with written history going back centuries. They get visited by paranormal spirits in numerous ways. One of these is a banshee. She had heard about them, like when her uncle died and her father was visited that night. It first visited her after she got married. In the middle of the night, it started wailing at the top of the stairs. There's another one that's inside the house. Started wailing at the top of the stairs at her bedroom. My father got up and noticed the bedroom door ajar. He went out to the stairs and caught a glimpse of it before it disappeared, and then the wailing stopped. Before morning, she got a phone call that her father had died. I believe it has appeared twice more over the years. The last time in January this year, as she walked her dog, a howl came from nearby. She knew what it was and ran back home. A very close friend and our neighbor dropped dead suddenly the next morning. Good Lord. This writer's pretty blunt here. Dropped dead suddenly the next morning. Most people don't believe, and it seems people don't get these death warnings anymore. Well, I don't believe that they don't get them anymore. I think they're getting them all the time.
Yeah. Especially in the old country, I bet they're getting them.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these encounters, they're all creepy and terrifying. I highly encourage everyone to go to this article at mysteryuniverse.org. Bizarre encounters with real banshees. There's some great stories there. Go check them out because I don't want to share too many more right now. Well, I'm going to stop right now, actually.
Yeah, and hearing those stories, it really, for me, puts my family story kind of in that right in that category.
I love that. That sounds terrible. I don't love it but how fascinating is that, Mike? That is just, creepy, eerie, but yet fascinating. I don't want to encounter a banshee.
No.
I'm sorry. You hear that, banshees? Stay away, damn you. Well,
I don't even want to see one if it's standing out in front of my neighbor's house.
Yeah. Hey, what are you saying about your neighbors? Well, come on now. What are you saying?
No.
I'm kidding.
Nothing negative.
Well, Mike, before we get to one last take, because we have an awesome Patreon episode we need to get to here. Final thoughts on banshees and harbingers of doom, portends to death, Mike. And it's hard for me to just wrap my head around the point of letting someone know that either you, or in the case of the banshee, a family member is going to die essentially unexpectedly. I know that not necessarily everything has to have a deep meaning behind it, but I wish it did. Right. I wish it did.
Sure.
What is the reason, if true, what is the reason behind a banshee and its foretelling of death? And your thoughts, Mike? Off the cuff, deep discussion. That's what we're all about, and I'm putting you on the spot yet again.
It's difficult. I don't know. It's something that's built out of legend, and then maybe it started out as legend, and it was believed in so much that in the old country where it came from, that it just became real. You know what I mean? It's like,
are you maybe perhaps
great fear?
Are you maybe perhaps suggesting that this is sort of the form of another form of an egregore, of something that is created, manifested by the power of the mind?
Yeah, stories could have been told for how many generations or centuries back.
And that,
how
and stories that are believed in so much that we're actually manifesting something into reality.
Could be.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but I did.
No, that's a possibility, or it's just something that maybe possibly it's been around as long as there has been, spirits in general, and it's just a specialized spirit that has its own duty that it has to do, and it's only it's not but the thing is that it's like it's it's such a cultural thing that, do we have it here only in a different form that we don't associate it with as a banshee?
Right.
I don't know. I think there's something to it. I mean, and I believe my grandmother when she told the story of this old hag that, and it took my great grandmother to interpret it as maybe because she probably grew up, knowing the story of the banshee, and my grandmother maybe not. And believing in the banshee, she knew that's what it was, and that's what she said, and that baby was not going to live, and that's why she said that baby wasn't going to live, because she knew, and from hearing what it was, that it was a banshee. So I'm going to believe it. I'm going to say yes, there is something to it. Anyway.
And that's something very powerful that your great grandmother said, Mike, just right there, like that baby isn't going to live, and sadly, it came to fruition. I mean, that's which makes me believe that my great grandmother, like I said, knew that was the banshee that my grandmother had seen. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of pseudo skeptics out there, not even skeptics, but just the pseudo skeptics, they will just immediately dismiss everything without thinking about it or even giving it the chance of being real. And they would say, well, I'm not going to pretend like I know what they're going to say. I can guess, but their arguments would lean towards it's purely fabrication, and it's created out of the human mind. It's the mind playing tricks on stuff. It's the way your brain interprets things, and it just, well, as longtime listeners know, both you and I find that a bunch of hooey, Mike, a bunch of hogwash. Mm-hmm. And I guess what I'm getting at here is, to even skeptics who are open-minded but very skeptical, and they start thinking about, like, why are there so many different forms of alleged spirits and stuff, and some are evil and some are good, and some look like this and some look like that, and they all take on these fairly humanoid shapes and figures, and they have these descriptions that all kind of basically look fairly human, as disfigured and creepy and weird as they might look. But you're like, why are there so many of them? And I guess an easy answer to that would be, well, why not? I mean,
sure.
Really, I mean, seriously, Mike,
there's so many of them because there are so many different dimensions that these things come through.
That's what I was getting at. That's exactly where I was getting at.
Yeah.
I mean, that we have to consistently remind ourselves is that we are limited. Our brain is limited to what we know is around us physically right now. And it's just, we can't even begin to imagine what is beyond the veil in these other descriptions, Mike. And maybe we are really putting our own human interpretations on them. Maybe a banshee doesn't really look like an old hag at all. Maybe it looks like something totally different that we have no concept of right now.
Right. We see it only as we can accept it and identify with it.
Yeah, thank you. That's we're on thinking on the same lines there. Well, I'm totally open-minded to it. I think it's very legit, a very legit possibility. How about that? I don't want to encounter one.
Absolutely.
Selfishly, because I don't want to be terrified, but more importantly, if it's true as a harbinger of death for a family member, well, of course you don't want to frickin' encounter a goddamn banshee. So stay out of our houses and around them, you whatever. Oh, Mike's distracted by something. Is lovely Mary on her way home right now?
She just pulled up in front of the house.
Oh, okay. Well, perfect, Mike. Let's do our first time traveling excursion, and we shall return with one last take on those feisty, pesky dire wolves. Sound like a plan?
Absolutely.
All right.
I'm ready.
Peace out. Well, don't peace out yet because we're coming back.
No.
All right. Hold on, boys and girls. We shall return. All right, and we have returned after yet another successful time-traveling excursion. Okay, Mike, it's time. It's that time. Time for one last take. I've said this every damn episode for about 12 episodes in a row. This is my favorite segment of every episode that we release. I mean, I love all of our episodes. I love all of our topics and stuff, but this one is particularly enjoyable for me, and just because talk about off the cuff. Pulling shit out of our ass and simply giving our opinions. Given our one last take, yay or nay, no shades of gray on any number of alleged paranormal / cryptid / whatever the hell you want to call it, any sort of mysterious or strange thing we talk about and we give our one last take. And tonight, we're talking dire wolves, Mike. Now, our listeners may be saying, well, what the hell, guys? Dire wolves were real things. What are you going to talk about here? I mean, there's not really much to talk about. They did exist, but the question is, do they still roam this earth, Mike?
Yeah. Did they die out 10,000 years ago like science says they did?
Right.
Or are they just train? You cannot hear that train.
I hear it this time. Yep, I absolutely hear it this time. That's cool though. It adds a little ambiance to the episode.
It'd be cooler if it was a ghost train, but it's not.
Oh, you shouldn't have said anything. You should have acted like I was like, what? What is that?
That would have been cool. But yes, they did exist. They roamed and hunted, and they were actually they were in competition with like how do you call them? What would you call I call them the saber-toothed tiger, but you have another name for them, I believe.
The Smilodon, Mike.
The Smilodon, that's correct.
Or some people say Smilodon and stuff, but
yes.
I say smile just because of their giant canines. And so, hey, what do you expose when you smile? Well, your canines and all your other teeth. So why not Smilodon? Yeah, we're talking about the giant saber-toothed cat, massive fearsome hunter, and like you said, they roam this earth around the same time as these massive fearsome hunters. The dire wolves did themselves. Yeah, man.
And dire wolves were kind of opportunistic. They would actually, from what I was reading, and how science or whatever paleontologists figure this stuff out, but dire wolves could actually steal food from the Smilodon, and just, they were very very hardy, tough wolfen type creatures.
Well, I'm assuming they hunted like modern wolves did, and they hunt in packs, and so
you get a number. And Smilodons did not.
Right, they're solitary hunters, maybe one or two at most. But the I can picture dire wolves severely outnumbering, the large saber-tooths, and just saying, nope, this is ours. Get out of here. So
absolutely.
Well, just so we can get some of the facts out of the way here, dire wolves, one of the most famous prehistoric carnivores that have ever existed in North America. The time of existence in the Americas and in Eastern Asia was the late Pleistocene and early Holocene. The epochs 125,000 to 9,500 years ago. The first specimen was found in Ohio, I believe, in 1854. But it says here the species was named in 1858. So I'm looking at a mounted skeleton here of a dire wolf in Sternberg Museum of Natural History. I love museums. I need to get back to a museum. Too. What is the last museum that you visited? The State Museum in North Dakota here in Bismarck, the capital. They got a fantastic museum there. Wow, that's cool.
It was a few years ago, but Mary and I are talking about this summer, definitely getting out there, spending some time in Bismarck, and a lot of history out there with the, just a lot of early North Dakota history. And the museum has fantastic fossils of dinosaurs that were found in the area and things like that. Like giant sea tortoise.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Sea turtle. I seen a skeleton that was amazing, but the giant ground sloth, I think there was one of those there. The giant bison.
Yep.
Is like huge compared to the huge bison we have now.
Many, many years ago, Cripes, I'd say 20, 25 years ago, my significant other and myself at that time were privileged to visit Chicago and the Science Museum there.
Mm-hmm.
They actually have a couple of museums. We visited both of them, but man, such a great time. And I'm such a geeky dinosaur nerd. Like right when you walked into, I believe it was the Chicago Field Museum. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but back then, right when you walked in, the first thing that you see is this massive mounted brachiosaur skeleton.
That would be awesome.
That's like 45, 50 feet tall.
Yeah.
Which is ginormous, but not necessarily the biggest brachiosaur out there or the biggest sauropod by any means. But my God, very humbling when you stand next to those. But
my favorite sauropod is actually
here we go.
Obviously the Brontosaurus.
Here we go, everybody. Here we go. I could just Mike. You just can't hold back, can you?
I can't.
Damn it! Maybe you know what? There's an idea that's popped in my head. We're gonna do one last take on the goddamn Brontosaurus versus Apatosaurus argument.
There you go.
Why don't we do that one of these days?
I think the most fantastic museum, I don't remember it very well because I was so young, but I remember being really, really great, was in Toronto, Ontario.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. And I've been to the one in Minneapolis. That was pretty decent.
Well, we should get back to dire wolves here.
Of course.
Now, the main focus of One Last Take here is the idea that a dire wolf is still in existence nowadays. These massive versions, essentially the same as the modern day gray wolves that you see.
Yeah, very similar to that.
But, what? A third times bigger, a half bigger. I mean, I'm not going to say twice the size, but every time that we think of or mention dire wolves, Mike, and we mentioned this before, it might have been a Patreon episode or the main podcast, I don't recall. We mentioned that bizarre footage that was featured on Paranormal Caught on Camera. That was in, where was it in Britain, Great Britain, or I don't remember, but this footage was filmed. Go figure. Of this massive freaking canine that looked just like a jet black wolf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but huge.
But ginormous because you could compare it to the dog that was barking and chasing after this dang thing. That footage was not faked. I don't care what skeptics say about that one. I mean, was it just a regular old gray wolf that was
a freak of nature?
Well, it was a freak of nature, right? Exactly.
Right.
I mean, humans have freaks of nature. I mean, Andre the Giant, for God's sake. Robert Wadlow, for God's sake.
The two that host this show.
Well, I'm more like a sprite than a freak of nature.
Sprite.
I don't know why.
Yes,
but
you have your own little fairy wings.
I do. Yep, they're underneath my hoodie right now. It's hard to see them,
But what really sets off those cute little wings is the little Tinkerbell outfit that you wear sometimes.
Please don't ever say cute little wings like that. I don't know. That was disturbing, but that's fine.
Yes, it was.
That's fine. Mike, do you think that somewhere in this world, and I have another thing that I want to throw out there, by the way, before we give one last take on whether or not dire wolves are still wandering this earth. Do you think, what are your thoughts on the possibility of this species surviving and, just living essentially in hiding, undiscovered, very rare sightings every now and then? Something that massive. I mean, it sounds kind of similar to other legends that we talk about quite often here. Your thoughts on the idea of a dire wolf still wandering about, Mike?
I think it's only one of many things that have existed that we don't even know about yet.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Does the idea of a dire wolf out there, a massive wolf, does that kind of creep you out, Mike, or is it something that you're like, oh my God, that's awesome?
I think it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, you don't, we don't hear of attacks or people being killed by these, but if something was killed by a dire wolf, or a pack of them, there wouldn't be anything left of the person to find, but I'm sure. But I think it's fantastic. It just has to be proven.
Okay, sure. Hey, and that's
just
what we're all about, right, Mike? We're here to prove things.
Yeah, prove things
on the Paranormal Zone. I almost called us the Ultimate Route Podcast there again. Good Lord.
We're here to prove that we're not idiots all of the time.
Now, the average size of a dire wolf, prehistoric dire wolf, was 150 pounds, and that's pretty darn big. That's pretty massive. But
I read
alleged
that
sightings,
right.
would suggest that they grow much larger than that.
Right. I had seen 200 pounds even mentioned.
Yeah, and I don't know how often. Have you ever seen a in the wild, Mike? Not in the zoo, or in a conservatory or what? Not a conservatory. I can't think of the word right now. Have you ever seen a full-grown wolf up close?
I have not in the wild.
Okay. There was an experience that, again, the same significant other I mentioned earlier. We were driving back at night from. Well, it's not going to make any sense to people outside of central Minnesota right now. We were driving back from a town called Detroit Lakes, and we were heading back home here at night. It was in the winter, was it in the winter? Or I want to say it was in the winter, like early winter. Long story short, though, we both saw this massive canine, white/gray, very, very thick fur, dog-like creature. It wasn't a gigantic German Shepherd. It wasn't a Husky. It wasn't a Alaskan Malamute. Long story short, again, I think we drove past a flippin' massive wolf walking on the side of the road, the main highway at night. It was ginormous. I mean, you don't get a true appreciation how big these things are until you see them. And if this wasn't a wolf, I don't have a clue what the hell it could have been.
Yeah, that does remind me of a time, and I'm not saying it was a wolf, but I can't imagine that it would have been anything else. So I take back my what I said about not seeing a wolf, but I'm not 100% sure that this was a wolf. But this is in North Dakota, driving on a country roads, and
oh, Mike's dying.
Excuse me.
You okay?
I'm good.
Okay.
But there's a lot of coyotes around. I mean, and they're kind of just a scraggly looking, skinny things, whatever. But I was driving and I saw this. Well, I automatically thought it was a coyote, but it was kind of on the other side of the ditch, closer to a field, and just walking along. And we're going in opposite directions. And as I got closer to it, it was so much bigger than a coyote. And it was actually kind of a thing where you'd say, wow, that's beautiful. I mean, you don't usually say that about coyotes,
Sure.
But, and if I saw a wolf at all, that would have had to have been a wolf if I'd seen one at all. But, which isn't a far stretch, because where I was at, if you go straight east from there, and Minnesota isn't far away from where I was. And in that area, straight east, there have been reported of wolves in that area.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
So
that would make
not
sense.
far away. So, I mean, and there's a river there. It could have came in, walked along the river, and, where there's trees and everything. And so I could very well have maybe seen a wolf. And, in my thinking about it, it was just too much and too big to be a coyote. But,
Sure.
around here, that's the first thing you think about when you see something like that. It's a coyote. But this thing was definitely much, much bigger.
No, Mike, what are your thoughts on, I have to throw this out there. What are your thoughts on the idea of a dire wolf being of demonic origin? Because that's out there. That is out there. And Mike immediately scoffs at it. But that's out there. Let's talk about that.
Oh,
a
sure.
little bit.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
there's all theories should be talked about and discussed, but I mean, of course, I don't buy that, because I just, knowing that they were a real thing at one time, and that, they could have survived until now, that just makes them just a living creature, a demon dog or demonic. For me, I'd say no.
well, that's no fun.
But I would also like to hear from somebody that does think it's a demon dog or a demon animal. And I'd love to hear what makes them think that, or what makes them believe that.
Now, paleontologists have said that dire wolves were much more ferocious than
I'm sure
modern day gray wolves, which would make sense. I mean, they had to be.
Yeah. Well, look at the competition that they had compared to
Right.
what wolves would now. I mean, wolves and bears, of course, big competition there, but
Yep.
but still, yeah.
I mean, so that fact right there might lead to, mythological legends growing about, these are more than just mere, physical manifestations themselves. They are something more spiritual, darkly spiritual.
Right.
I'm not dismissing it entirely. I want to make that clear. Again, Macy agrees with me. I hear her in the background.
A little bit there. Yeah.
I mean, she could very well grow up to the size of a dire wolf, Mike. The way that she's going, or she's slowing down finally a little bit.
I think she's kind of slowing down, but yeah.
Probably got those massive paws still going though, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I just read something here that suggested that some dire wolves grew to the size of small horses.
Geez.
Nearly 500 to 600 pounds.
Wow. I couldn't imagine seeing something like that.
Wow. That is terrifying. Again, who's to say? I mentioned earlier, Mike, Robert Wadlow was 9 feet tall, for God's sakes.
Right.
He was 480 pounds. Everyone throws out Andre the Giant, 7 foot tall, 500 pounds. I mean, there's every animal species out there has giants. Why do you think people mount their giant northern pike on the wall? That's bigger than average. It's a freak of nature. So why not? Do these things still roam the earth right now?
That's a question.
Man. Do we want to... Well, you already kind of dismissed the idea of it being of a demonic nature, or possibly being of a demonic nature. Mike immediately went like, nah.
Yeah, I did.
So, for this, we'll focus on the idea of them simply still existing. Oh shit! I'm sorry. Again, this is off the cuff, but I just remembered, fans of Game of Thrones out there, that dire wolves play a massive part in Game of Thrones. Massive
I still need
part.
to start watching that.
Oh my God, Mike! I can't believe you haven't.
I know,
Mike. I'm telling you right now, you will love it. I know you will love it. You'll be hooked after one episode, and you'll be like, after 2 episodes, you'll be like, how have I not watched this before?
Yeah. And where can you find it again? I don't know if I have.
HBO Max, baby.
Yeah, see, I don't have that.
I thought you said you had HBO Max.
I have direct Discovery. I have that.
That's not.
I have Netflix.
I could have swore you said you had HBO, unless we were talking about you getting HBO.
I would have to get it.
Could watch it. Oh,
it'd be worth it. It's not that expensive.
No, it isn't. It actually isn't.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's so good. But dire wolves play a giant part, and they have a very, well, I'm not going to say spoiler alert, because Game of Thrones is a decade old now.
Right.
Very spiritual part is played by the dire wolves, in my opinion. One of the main characters is a young boy named Bran. And I don't want to give anything away, Mike.
Is his middle name Muffin?
It is not Muffin.
Oh.
I wish it was. I wish it was, now that you mention it. I'm not going to spoil anything for you, Mike, but he suffers a physical ailment of some sort early on, and at several points throughout the books and the series. He incorporates the ability, I suppose, of transferring himself into the body of a dire wolf and seeing through the eyes of said dire wolf for various reasons, and it's fascinating. It's awesome. I know you'd love it, and that I didn't give.
Oh, I know I would. Yeah,
but so. Maybe I'm kind of not tarnished, but I can't get away from that idea. So I keep thinking of dire wolves in a spiritual sense. But for one last take purposes, Mike, let's just do it without wasting any more time. Do you think that giant wolves still wander this earth right now as we speak?
If I have to go
one way or the other, no shades of gray, yay or nay. What say you?
I have to go with yes. I believe so. I just have to believe that there's something out there. There has been, like that video footage that we've seen there's no way that was fake, and that was something amazing. And I just have to believe that it's real. It's out there. It's still out there.
I agree with you, Mike. No beating around the bush here at all. I think it's absolutely a possibility. I totally believe that. I mean, my gosh, we focus on Bigfoot, for God's sakes, a hell of a lot. And we're talking about a massive humanoid that wanders the woods of America
yeah.
that has yet to be proven. So why the hell not? Why not a wolf? Why not a giant wolf that's wandering?
Of course. Might even make more sense.
They're highly intelligent creatures. And who's to say there isn't a spiritual connection there somehow? Some sort of, okay, I'm going to go way out on a limb here, but maybe there's some sort of cloaking abilities. Maybe there's some sort of, slipping in and out of the dimensions a la Bigfoot, Mike, which a lot of people suggest is a real possibility there. Supernatural Bigfoot, supernatural Sasquatch. Why not supernatural dire wolf?
What would be awesome is to have a Bigfoot sighting where the Bigfoot and the dire wolf are standing there together.
A Bigfoot riding a dire wolf.
And or a Bigfoot throwing a stick for the dire wolf to chase.
Fetch,
and he
boy.
Brings back. All of a sudden you see the Bigfoot start hopping up and down, clapping his hands.
You're going to see a Bigfoot going, sit, boo boo, sit.
Yeah.
And then a dire wolf, woof, woof. Oh,
yeah.
Good dire wolf. Drops him a plum or something. I don't know. Well, I said plum.
Here's a yam for you. I'm going to throw it and you go get it.
Well, yams very well known as dire wolf favorites. So.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't mean to make it so brief and to the point there as far as dire wolves being a real possibility, but I think it's clear cut for you and I that why not, man?
Yeah. I mean, if we need to think of it as a cryptid at this point that still needs to be proven to still exist, but it's kind of beyond a cryptid because it's proven that it did exist.
True. Yes.
So,
well, the same thing with Bigfoot. Gigantopithecus is proven to exist.
Exactly.
So this is essentially the same.
You're right.
Same thing.
That's true.
That's another thing I don't get. It's like, why are skeptics so? Why do they just poo-poo the idea of Bigfoot as being absolute bullshit?
Because there's no proof.
But giant apes have been proven to exist. It's just like they cling to science so much. Well, look at science. Gigantopithecus really lived. Okay.
Yes, but science says that they don't exist anymore.
Well, that I know.
What proof do they have that it doesn't exist?
Yeah. I mean,
so how can they even say that?
No, I get it. So anyways, whatever. That's a whole nother episode.
Start getting pissed off at the end of this one.
Again, if you want to hear Mike and I get pissed off quite a bit, go check out the archived episodes on our Patreon page, man. Some of those things are so fun, but so hard to listen to for me personally.
Yeah.
Just because, my God, I came across as an obnoxious, like DJ like guy who was just like going, hey, hoo ha, hoo hoo ha. And but we man, we covered a lot of awesome stuff. It's a lot of great content, Mike. And I'm so glad that I saved all of these episodes.
Oh, absolutely.
Going back to 2013, and it's like traveling it's like time traveling in a weird sense, and you get to hear. Well, let's put it this way. One of our oldest archived episodes that we have available, that I posted on the Patreon page is Mike's very first appearance.
Really?
We were still Nonsensicast Radio.
God, I gotta listen to that one.
So our very first, the very first incarnation of this podcast was Nonsensicast Radio. Me and my lovely fiance Bridget started Nonsensicast Radio way back in the day. Then Mike slithered his way into the podcasting realm with us.
What year was that episode?
That was 2013, man.
Got it.
And
Wow, crazy.
we had some great times. It's fun as hell to listen to them. I mean, the quality I hope we have become quite a bit better. I just highly encourage everyone to check it out. And this isn't a cheap, shameless plug. It really isn't. It's really, really fun putting these up there. And I hope all of our patrons enjoy the archived content, plus all the new content that is coming and shall still come.
So I've been like part of this it'll be coming up on like 10 years.
Yeah.
My God.
Yes, sir, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well,
sometimes I get it stuck in my head that the thing has only existed for like 7 years.
No, I know. Yeah, it's like we can't get past that number or something.
Yeah, I know. It's just weird. Yeah.
No, this would be coming up in September or October of this year. It would be our 9th anniversary of the debut of Nonsensicast Radio.
Wow. Crazy.
So, wow. Yeah, that's kind of frightening at the same time.
So I kind of popped in there not long after you started.
Absolutely not, man. Absolutely
Wow.
not. Yeah. And if you want to hear us all, particularly Mike and Bridget getting just hammered drunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
But still in a sweet, fun, and entertaining way to listen to. We weren't obnoxious or anything like that. But
Never.
those are the old ones. That's not all you're going to get on the Patreon page. We have so much more stuff. So much more than that. Anyways, Mike, let's wrap this up. Oh, this has been fast. It has been fast, but this has been a blast, and I can't believe that we're already done.
I know. It's only midnight.
No. Well, maybe it's midnight where people are listening right now, wherever they may be.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Bangladesh.
Thank you so much for tuning in right now. I was going to call ourselves the Elden Ring Podcast again. What the hell?
How many times have you done that tonight now?
Ooh, Nelly.
A couple of times.
Well, hang on, Mike, because we have an awesome Patreon episode we need to dive into. This is going to be a blast. If you haven't given us a shot, give us a shot. This episode in particular, because we're going to share not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, but 8 or 9 of our own personally collected and recorded EVPs throughout the years, and we're going to share them and discuss them.
Discussion.
It's going to be fun, Mike. I can't wait to share some of them with you, because I know at least 2 of them you have not heard.
Yep. And I did get the one that you resent me today.
Yep, and I'm not talking about that one, so that would be 3. So,
but I do have my opinion on that one that we'll
great.
discuss.
Perfect. Well, Mike, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for tuning in. This obviously was a Paranomaly Zone. We hope you enjoyed. We hope to see you next week. We shall be here, Mike. Until then, what do our awesome paranormal pals need to do?
Peace be with you. Peace out.
Good Lord. Okay, thank you for saying that.